My name is Ashleigh Suarez. I am from Seneca, South Carolina, and I've lived in Nashville since 2004. I think I began creating art the moment I was created. I think that it's in all of us. I remember growing up, I liked to draw pictures on my bedroom walls, and my mom did put me in some art classes, and I took art in high school. I ended up in the high school honors art program just for my senior year. But it had an impact on me. I loved photography. I loved being in the dark room. I painted a bit then, but never in oils. Back then it was just acrylic, and I didn't care for acrylic. But I really didn't pick art back up until later in life. Before becoming an artist here in Nashville, I studied pathology. I have a master's degree in pathology from University of Maryland at Baltimore, and in college I studied health sciences and pre-med. I have to say all of that though. My favorite classes were art, theater, and sewing, and so it made no sense the career path that I went into. But in the end, I think it all came together. So my former profession, a pathologist assistant. I practiced as a pathologist assistant for over 10 years, both at Vanderbilt and with a private practice group here in Nashville. It involved autopsy work and also anything removed from the body from surgery, I would dissect. So kind of a morbid job, but it taught me a lot. Well, my art tends to focus on figure work. I think I'm particularly drawn to that, given my background. I grew up as a gymnast, and I was a competitive gymnast through college, and I think expressing creativity and strength and beauty and all of that through the human form has always been a big part of who I am. Very different ways now. I think I'm probably portraying the same message, or at least I hope I am. I hope I'm portraying beauty and strength, usually in the female form. Not that I don't paint males, but I hope to portray strength and beauty and all of those things that I used to portray myself as a gymnast. Physically, I kind of incorporate into my paintings, combined with my background in anatomy and physiology, and kind of knowing the human anatomy helps. I can look at a subject and see where maybe the balance is off, or it doesn't make sense that the posture would be a certain way. I think that having been a gymnast, I kind of know that intuitively, and then. Lucky for me, my educational background kind of supported that. Without really knowing that was going to be the journey, that ended up being the journey. And here I am now doing something similar to art, theater, and sewing. But the focus being primarily on figure work, although I do landscape and still life as well, especially when I'm sick of looking at skin. After a little while, I'll kind of pick up something else. But I tend to paint from life. I rarely paint from photos. I almost always start from a model. So usually the techniques I use for painting, I typically use a palette knife. I rarely like to pick up the brush, although I will. A palette knife kind of keeps me loose, and it keeps me from dipping into my former profession and dissecting every little detail. It makes me think larger shapes and bigger form, and it also kind of gives clean color. When you're mixing with a brush and oils, you can get muddy colors pretty quick, but with a palette knife, it keeps it clean. And there's always that joke that I traded a scalpel for a palette knife. And I prefer this one. I think a lot of things inspire my art. I think working through my own grief and life experiences contribute and definitely inspire my art. I'm also inspired by my dreams. I have very colorful, very vivid, and very real dreams. And oftentimes I'll wake up and whatever colors maybe that I saw or the overall theme of that dream, I'll incorporate into my work. I tend to be painting a figure and I'm looking at another person, another model. But really, I think that we're all, not to sound too loopy, but we're all connected in some way, shape, or form that probably none of us can really explain, but can occasionally feel. And I think when I paint, I feel that connection, and I'm not just painting a subject. I'm painting parts of myself that I see in that subject. I'm painting my story through my subject. And so I think that if you were to look at all of my work as a big body of work, you would probably put together my story, at least on some level. And I hope that other people can see their own story in my work, or parts of themselves in my work. And that's often why I leave the face kind of obscure or a little bit, minimal details, because I think that we can all look at each other and see a piece of ourselves. And I think that just promotes empathy and compassion for others and for ourselves.